Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, I am here with our fabulous co-host, April Munson. April, what is going on? How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm kind of dreading going back to school next week, but it's all kind of just part of the journey, I guess we'll call it. Got to get it over with eventually. So kind of been on my mind here lately, but we're hanging in there. What's new with you?
Well, I want to focus on you because first things first, we actually really didn't talk a whole lot over the holidays. And that's just because things were busy. Like you had just finished up finals, and then boom, it's Christmas, and then boom, it's New Year's, and you're working in between all of this, trying to take a break in between the pressure of school, and you're coming up on your senior year, and then you go on this great cruise and people are messaging you and they're like, hey, you're supposed to be in this meeting, and I'm like, didn't anyone know that he's supposed to be on a break on a cruise? So I'm like, oh man, I'm going to come back to all this stress, and I've got to schedule this meeting with him to get him all caught up, which is not a problem. But I'm like, man, I felt like this would be such an interesting thing to talk about because I honestly have no idea how your cruise was, and I would love to get your initial reaction to how that was trying to jump back into work and refocus your mind for school. And school is starting next week. Yeah, next week. And this is your senior year. You have a lot of stuff going on. Like from the student perspective, even though you're the student and the host, this is something that we need to talk about. So yeah, let's just talk about the whole animal we have here between holidays and school. And yeah.
So, holidays are great, but they're always hectic. And it's really nice to get a break, but sometimes it's almost just as exhausting as far as bouncing between family events, shopping, getting gifts for everyone, dealing with relatives you don't get to see as much. I don't have too much of that, thankfully, but still, there are a lot of us out there that can relate to that. So, obviously great to see everybody. You never realize really how much you miss them being up at school and stuff until you are back home and you get to see them kind of on much more of a regular basis. Until then, they were a little bit rough this year. First holidays without my grandfather this year. So that kind of did make it a little bit harder, but we got to spend them all together still. We all had them, obviously in our memory. It was a little bit difficult, but we made it through. As I said, loved being back home with family, spending some time with them, getting like a little bit of a break from work, but obviously still work on the mind. You guys know how it is. So yeah, and then, as you said, into Christmas, into New Year's, juggling things around that, obviously trying to stay healthy with everything that's going on right now, trying our best to be safe. And then we had the cruise. We left for that just the day after New Year's to head down to Florida and get ready to go for that. With that cruise had actually been pushed back almost 2 years, as we've been trying to take it for a long time, but every time COVID had different plans. So this was kind of we really just kind of wanted to do it and get it over with type of thing, because we've just been trying for so long and really never got the opportunity to go. So this was finally the time. Thankfully, everybody remained healthy and we were able to go. What we did is obviously, we ported from Port Canaveral, Florida, and then we sailed down to Grand Turk, and from there to the Dominican Republic, and then back. So honestly, it was really cool. I can tell you my initial reaction walking into the cruise ship. I was totally fine with everything as far as like the plane rides and then the actual port itself. I get onto the boat and we're in this like big atrium lobby thing. And I'm like looking up at like 4 or 5 floors. First of all, like it's hit me that I'm on a boat. Like literally, this is weird. But I'm like looking up, and like on the bottom of the ceiling of each floor, there's like this super pretty marble. I don't even know what to call it or whatever. So I'm looking at all this and it's all lit up. And I turn around and I like look at my girlfriend and her mom, and I'm like, whose freaking idea was this? Because I am too poor to be in here. I don't know what's going on with like whatever, but I did. It's out of place. I already know like this is going to be interesting. But I mean, the ship was beautiful. Service was great. I mean, it was a really great experience. You know, a lot of good times. There was a great comedian on the boat. Loved him. You know, they had some super cool shows, and then obviously the ports, the destinations were really cool as well. Grand Turk didn't quite have as much to do, but they had beautiful beaches. Water was very blue. You got to see some coral. There was a lot of really cool things there as well. There was some nice you know, like souvenir shops and things like that. Pretty cool little town and stuff that we ported to. And like the boat was like, I'm trying to think, like docked like right off the beach. So like you're standing at the beach, like looking at the boat. Like it was weird, but at the same time, it was pretty cool. That like it wasn't that far away, yet the water was deep enough to hold a cruise ship. Like
Yeah.
literally that far away. It was crazy. And then the Dominican Republic was almost the opposite. Like obviously it still had its beaches and stuff. Water wasn't quite as clear there, but the terrain was a much more like mountainous, where Grand Turk was a little more like flat. And they had like everything to do in the Dominican. Like we ended up going on an excursion while we were there, that they have something there called the Damahagua waterfalls. And more or less what it is it's like essentially like a mountain that you have to like hike up the mountain, like 45, 50-minute hike. And then there's like 27 different waterfalls that go down like the opposite side of the mountain. And what we did is we only got to see like 4 or 5 of them based on the trail that we took. I mean, we had guides and stuff, so we couldn't exactly get lost, which was probably a good thing. I'm not sure yet, but anyway, what we got to do is like we hiked all the way up there, and then like the really cool thing is they had built almost like I'm trying to think of the right word, like I don't know how to. They made like platforms and stuff up around the waterfalls and stuff that you could like essentially jump off of down into the water below. And it was cool because all the waterfalls kind of like connected, so like obviously one trailed into another, etc. But and then some of them like you had to kind of jump into them, which I will tell you the first one didn't look that high, and then about midway down I was like, oh crap, I'm still falling. like like then it kind of hit me like whatever, but it was still a really really cool experience. And some of them were like almost like natural formations that were like slides. They were like water slides. So you could like slide down the rock formation. It was like completely smoothed over. It was really sweet.
Wow.
That essentially we went to a water park built into a mountain, but it was like completely natural. So it was really cool. And then
Do you have
yeah, and then
pictures?
after yeah, I do, but I don't have them yet. They're on like a flash drive that we have to get them off of,
Okay.
which my girlfriend's mom has. So I have to get them from her, and then I'll get them to you.
Yeah, I want to
Um,
see.
yeah, it was really cool. And then from there, we had to bus to a place that they had there called Monkeyland. And I don't remember exactly what the little guys were called, but they were these like cute little monkeys that more or less like, I mean, they loved like bananas and berries and stuff like that. And so we got to go into this like sanctuary thing with all these little monkeys, and they like sat us all around this like put inside this pavilion, and they basically use everybody's heads as stepping stones, like bouncing off of everybody, to make sure that they could get the food or whatever. We got a bunch of pictures with them as well. I almost brought home my own little monkey, but I chose not to. So yeah, that would have been pretty cool. I feel like my dog probably wouldn't like that either. She's kind of nervous a little bit. She probably would have just done nothing but bark at it, and the monkey would have probably just thrown poop at her. So anyway, moving on. Yeah, it was a really awesome experience for sure. I enjoy traveling. I love seeing new places. I think probably what got to me the most was like the airports and the port itself for the boat. I don't enjoy that stuff. Obviously, I understand why it's there, but it's not fun whatsoever, and it's not designed to be. But that's the part that gets to me a little bit, as far as like the congestion and everything goes, especially with everything going around right now. But yeah, thankfully everybody made it, there and back healthy. Everybody's been fine, and yeah, it was a really really awesome experience. And I was able to communicate with you guys completely up until we got on the boat. As soon as we got on the boat, well, no, I still had connection on the boat. Basically, I mean, maybe 10, 20 minutes after we left port, I had no service whatsoever for like a complete week. And it was like, I want to say it was a really good thing because like I didn't want to be on my phone the whole time, but I do know that I missed quite a bit in that time as well. So yeah, as April mentioned that she kind of had to catch me up a little bit, but still, like I said, it was kind of like there was a win and a lose there. But anyway, it was really cool. And excuse me. Yeah, so we did have kind of like a long day the day we got back to port where we actually went to Disney Springs that day. I'm sure you're familiar with
Oh
that.
wow, yeah, I
Um,
didn't know.
yeah, and we spent a little bit of time there, got some pictures, just because we had some time to waste before our flight home. And in that day, I was pretty much able to kind of communicate with everybody and kind of get squared back away until, obviously Monday morning, where then I was able to kind of dive back into everything. But yeah, I mean, at that point, everything was pretty good. And I mean, I've been able to kind of dive into work since Monday. I've, had my own tasks now as everything goes. You know how that is. But yeah, I think everything's kind of been back off to the races. I mean, we've already recorded multiple times this week, and I mean, it's been good. Kind of like the break was nice, but kind of back to business per se, where I'm getting to work on everything that we were working on prior. And yeah, I think that was pretty much everything. I know that was the cruise for sure. And kind of mentally preparing to go back to school next week. Not 100% sure what that looks like yet. I know I have a full schedule. I don't exactly know how much work they're going to demand yet. Hoping for a moderate amount, not an extreme amount, but kind of whatever we get is kind of how it is. But it's my last semester. Almost there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting, but at the same time, like, feels like I was a junior in high school yesterday. You know what I mean? And it's just flown by. But at the same time, I feel like I'm ready for it. College has this funny way of being like the segue between high school and life. And what I kind of mean by that is that when you're in high school, a lot of people are usually pretty much done with high school by the time they graduate. They're like, all right, I'm over it. I'm ready to go do something else. I'm ready to move on. But college is kind of the same way in a sense. But what it does is it makes it to the point that you are so fed up with learning stuff and the school mindset and system that you just want to go start life. And what that does essentially is that you just get so tired of school that you're like, all right, you know what? I'm ready to go work and do something else now because I don't ever want to learn anything like that ever again. So, like I said, it's kind of this weird little segue between like high school and life, essentially. And, obviously some of us are more ready for that than others. But I mean, I'm just kind of at that point that I'm like, I'm kind of ready for that. Like it's, time for me to start working on my career, my future. And, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for what's next and I'm here for it. Obviously everything here has been great, but now it's just about time for something new. So yeah, pretty much where we're at.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I kind of am. I want to know, when you were on the cruise, did your mindset change at all? Like, I know there's a lot of, us working on teams with other people, but did your mind kind of almost like allow you to get inspired about the things that you want to do for yourself? Like, did you get to that point, or did like maybe it wasn't even about business? But I know for me, whenever I travel, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could be doing all these other things, and I get inspired to want to do more for myself. So I just want to know if that happened for you.
Absolutely. I think for me, it really kind of helped me wrap my head around a few different things that I'd kind of been pondering as far as like what my future looks like with podcasts, with, many different things. So I think it really kind of, I'm trying to think of like how to word it. Like it's one of those things where you kind of just need to put yourself in a different environment and it almost gives you that space where ideas free flow, excuse me, where, things just kind of naturally start coming to you. Like, and I don't know how like the science behind that, but like, yeah, I mean, the sayings how, like when you have writer's block or something like that, you need to just go somewhere else, go do
Yeah,
something else. Like it's
yeah.
kind of like that in a sense. Um, what it pretty much reminded me of is an episode of the Marketing Secrets podcast that Russell Brunson does, that Adam sent me. This was a while back, probably over a year now, but I believe it was titled "Entrepreneurs Don't Take Vacations." And pretty much what he described in this podcast episode is that, like, we try as we may, you go on these trips and you go all these places, but then you get there and you think about work. When you're at work, you think about vacation. And when you're on vacation, you think about work. And that's where he was saying, obviously, long story short, it wasn't a long episode. If any of you guys want to check it out, by all means. But essentially that, even getting out of your traditional environment, you still kind of go on that trip and you're still kind of thinking about things that you could be doing back home. So it kind of reminded me of that. Obviously, yes, tried to, embrace the sun. It was definitely nice being able to wear, t-shirts, cut off shorts. That was beautiful. Then we come back here and it was like a whopping 15 degrees with a wind chill of like
Welcome
-2.
home.
It was great, let me tell you. But yeah, so obviously didn't necessarily miss the cold, but yeah, it was a nice, refreshing kind of getaway where, I was kind of able to mentally reset, really kind of think about some new things, new direction, and kind of brainstorm some of those things, but in like a relaxed way where you didn't necessarily feel pressured to knock it out right now. Like I can say sometimes, like I'll be sitting in front of my computer trying to think about, what I want to do next. I mean, and maybe an idea will come to me, maybe it won't, but like if you're sitting there like looking at it, you feel like you should be doing it. And then if you're not doing it because you don't know how or whatever, then you feel bad because you're not doing it. And it's, a whole cycle. But yeah, I would definitely say that I relate. Going on the trip definitely kind of gave me some of those like, wow, I could be doing, ABC vibes. So yeah, for sure.
So then does it feel almost like whiplashy? Because you take the time, you get away, that time is limited, but you almost don't even feel limited in your mind because you're enjoying the excitement of dreaming for yourself a little bit in a way that you haven't done in a really long time. So then it's like, okay, you're back home now. Here's all the things you missed. You start school next week. You have all these things to do. Have you been able to hold on to the excitement of what you want to do for you without being like, okay, well, I guess that was just that. Now I gotta do all this. Like, how are you balancing that?
I would definitely say it hasn't quite died off yet. I
Well,
say
good.
yet because it almost always does. I haven't started school back yet, so they haven't quite kicked me in the
Oh,
teeth.
gee.
But point being that yeah, I mean, some of it, like you just said, I think you worded it really well, that like being out on that trip really allowed me to kind of like dream and do a lot of different a lot of different thinking as far as like what I want to accomplish when I get home type of deal. And then, I mean, that really allowed me to kind of get excited on the last couple of days to come back home and kind of get to work.
Oh,
And
wow.
I will say that so far so good. It has only, I mean, it's been what, 5, 6 days now, but either way, hasn't quite died out yet. I've, been able to knock out a lot of work so far. I believe everybody's happy with it, so we're doing pretty well there. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I think it was pretty good. And I mean, like I said, the novelty hasn't quite wore off where I'm still, pretty excited. Yeah. So I think that answered everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's like, is there a different mindset at all now that it's becoming a little more realistic that like you do start school next week and this is it? I mean, not technically. I mean, you could always further your education, but as far as what you've been doing the last 4 years, there's a time limit on this and you can see like the end of the road here. I'm sure it's exciting. I'm sure it's also like a lot, especially trying to figure out what happens after that. Even though I feel like you almost have like a really clear idea because we are working together in other projects that are real jobs that aren't just like short little internships. So that's very exciting to have that set. But how is all of that for you? Like that reality and that like workload and stuff, like balancing all of these things. Like it's a good thing. I really don't want to paint it as like a bad thing because it's very exciting. Like you are graduating and you already kind of know like what is happening next. So yeah, talk to me about how that feels for you right now.
Some of it, I think I can say that it hasn't hit me yet. Um, where like I can say like high school graduation, I feel like hit me pretty hard. Where like I had a pretty uh, good group of friends at the time that I felt pretty close with, where I didn't know if I would see them again, etc. Where I was just kind of like, hey, like I really wanted everybody to stay in touch, and stay close. That kind of didn't happen, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of going their own directions, and I see their updates on Instagram and stuff, and I'm obviously super happy for them, but everybody's kind of gone their own way, and that's okay. But I guess some of it, like I'm a different person now than I was then, where I'm not quite as worried about my circle, where like I have my own stuff and that pretty much keeps me busy enough. But at the same time, like yeah, like I said, I don't think it's quite hit me yet that like some of these people I'm never going to see again. Whether that be professors, whether that be students that we're here with, like everybody is kind of going to be going their own way all over again. And it's really cool, but like I said, at the same time, I don't think it's quite hit me where like there are people that I know here, but not anybody that like I'm extremely close with. Where coming back to school, I think that like there are people that I want to get closer with before we all go part ways, and may or may not ever see each other again and stuff. So like I do like obviously want to finish strong as far as like grades and things go, but at the same time, like there are some relationships and stuff that I want to make sure are, in a good place. Like not that any of them aren't, but you know what I mean? Like I want to strengthen those before graduation as well. So yeah, I mean, I feel like those are kind of the things on my mind right now. Like I said, I want to finish strong grades wise. And yeah, I mean, I've been here 4 years and I kind of want to have something to show for it too. So, I'm going to keep grinding. So,
So we have like tossed around this idea a lot, and I think the last time we spoke, you were like, "Okay, I know for sure this is what I'm doing." So, are you staying an extra year to do the master's program? Are you still tossing around like, "Am I going to do a master's? Am I not?" Like, where are you at with that?
I think that's what I want to do, but I do know a lot of people that have different viewpoints on that. So I feel like every time I talk to somebody, I get a different piece of advice as far as like what that looks like. I've had a lot of people tell me that if you don't need it for whatever job you're going into, don't do it. I mean, just spending more money, spending more time, whatever. But I've also had a lot of people say it's one more year, you have your master's for the rest of your life. And just to kind of elaborate on that, here at Westminster, we have a 4+1 program. That's why it's only one more year, for anybody that was confused there. But anyway, it could essentially be one more year. I have that for the rest of my life, and I get to say that I have my master's. I mean, whatever. Like, and I mean, maybe that's just a status thing. Maybe that's whatever. But it is something that I do partially feel like I want to accomplish for myself. So it's just something that I do feel somewhat conflicted over, because, like, obviously, I don't want to necessarily spend more money than I have to, go further into debt, whatever. But at the same time, like, that's something I feel like could be really cool to have that level of quote unquote expertise, as well
Yeah.
as, just knowing that I accomplished that. Like, obviously, upon graduation in May, like I'll have my bachelor's, but that's just kind of one step further, something that I can say, like, I did that, I accomplished that, and kind of have something to show for it as well. And nobody can kind of take that away. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, yes, it is still a slight toss up. I am doing things currently to make sure that I have everything in a row, that if I do choose to go down that route, it's ready to go and I'm not like
Yeah.
floundering behind or not even able to do it. But yeah, so it's still a slight toss up, but I am kind of leaning towards, like, I do think that's something that I want to pursue, just because it's just kind of something that I want to accomplish for myself.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that was really just everything that we hadn't caught up with on your end since the holidays. So, is there anything else that you feel like you'd want to share from the holidays that you learned that's important, or you're just like you're good?
I mean, no, I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, obviously, we're always learning. I mean, every day it's something new. But I mean, I feel like, I mean, just getting ready for another new chapter. So just kind of trying to mentally prepare for that, keep my head down, finish strong here. And then, life's coming fast, and it's both exciting and terrifying
Yeah.
to a point that I don't know if I feel ready, but at the same time, life doesn't care. So,
No,
um,
I love that you said that. I love that you said about how scary it is. It's uncertain. It's exciting. It is a new chapter. And that's something that I really want to talk to you about because we haven't talked about this at all.